All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us. It is 12 o'clock. That means it is HLA Central Oklahoma chapter time, and we are so excited that you could join us. Today, we have an amazing presentation. We are joined by three amazing college students who are former scholarship recipients of ours, and we are just so blessed to have them as part of this organization, and we are so excited to see them grow. So we're doing our Zoom a little bit differently this time, and that we're going to have two of our board members who will be asking the questions, and that will give our speakers some time to really let you all know their experiences and some tips and tricks for school-age children with hearing loss. So we are so grateful to all of the new faces we're seeing, and we encourage you to join our chapter simply by going to our website. There is a great little button that says join right across the top. It's a simple form. There's also a wonderful, bright, beautiful shade of green button, and that's to donate. We love $10 donations, which really help cover your membership and those newsletters and everything. So we're just so grateful, and we're happy you're here. Yeah. So we are going through, excuse me. I want to also mention that we are not doing in-person meetings until at least January. We are so excited to get back to those, but right now we are just staying safe and doing some of these Zoom meetings. We are going to be putting them into our brand new YouTube channel, which will be announced shortly. All of these meetings will be captioned, and I'm even working to possibly add some sign language with the Tulsa Source for Hearing Access group out there. So look forward to that. We're so excited, and we'll let you know when that happens. The last thing I would say is, if you have not yet, please follow us on Facebook. It's Okla Hearing Loss is how you find us. That is a great place to find out about our YouTube channel, about new videos that we're going to be putting on, and it's just a great way to watch us grow. So this meeting is being recorded. We're going to be adding that recording to that video to the YouTube channel soon, but I will ask you to hit mute right now on your Zoom if you haven't already. And if you'd like, there's a chat box that you can hit at the bottom, and you can ask any questions, and then Sharon and Elaine will get to those questions if there's time at the end. So I'm going to go ahead and say, we already said hello to all of our board members individually at our last meeting, but I'm so grateful that all the board members are here that could join us. I also ask you to reach out to any audiologists that you know and ask them to join our Hearing Loss Association as well. It's really important that we get all of the team playing together. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Ron Hendricks, who is our program chair, and I'm going to turn the microphone over to him. Go ahead, Ron.
Yep. Hello, everyone. Thanks, Anna. Glad to have you here, and excited to get this Zoom meeting underway. As we've already talked, we've got our scholarship winners. Mackenzie, Zach, and Cassidy are all here. And I'm also happy to have Jan Hart, who's the mother of one of our previous scholarship winners. But now I'm going to turn it over to Sharon for begin questioning and begin the program.
Hi, everybody. Good to see you all here. First, I want to just give a little plug for our scholarship. Just to let you know, we've given away scholarships for 5 years now. And in the 5 years, we've given away 11 scholarships for a total of $11,500. So I believe hope we're making an impact on our future by helping these students. And we will continue to do that. As a matter of fact, our next scholarships will be in the amount of $1,500 each. And the cutoff date to get in the applications will be April 5th. So if any of you know people for potential scholarship recipients, be sure to alert them to be looking on our website. Our application and rules will be downloaded soon on our website, so that will be available for you to download. Now let me introduce our people. First, one at a time, I'd like you to give your name and the name of the university you're attending, and then your major. And of course, in the case of Jan, your profession So let's start with Mackenzie, if you will state your name.
Hi, my name is Mackenzie Chestnut. I am attending Oklahoma State OKC, and my major is American Sign Language.
Oh, excellent. That's excellent.
My name is Zach Burleson, and I'm double majoring in marketing and entrepreneurship at Oklahoma State University.
Great. Thank you, Zach. And
Hi, my name is Cassidy Floyd. I'm a junior at NSU in Tahlequah, and my major is health and PE.
oh, great. Well, it's exciting to hear what you all are planning for the future, and we wish you well, of course, in all your endeavors. Now I'm going to turn the next question over to Elaine. Oh, I'm sorry, Jan. I forgot Jan. Let me back up. Jan, introduce yourself.
Yes, I'm Jan Hart. I'm a professor here at UCO, and my son is Peter, who is 21 and about to graduate with his bachelor's degree at OU.
At OU.
I know you.
Yes. Well, we're well represented throughout the state then. Okay, Elaine, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Unmute, Elaine.
You need to unmute.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay. What we're going to start with is just, and we'll start with Cassidy, because somebody told me, I think Anna was saying that, Cassidy, you're going to have to leave a little early. Is that right? Okay. But anyway, a little about your hearing loss journey, and we'll get to a little bit more details with some other questions. But just in general, your general impression of living with hearing loss, and especially with regard to, like, for instance, any audiologists in particular that helped you along the way, how much of a difference, the providers did, and, just a general synopsis, because of course, we don't have hours to do this. I know I can't sit that long for a meeting, but, just a general idea of your journey with hearing loss, and in particular, how audiologists, if there are any particular audiologists that helped you.
Okay, so I was born with my hearing loss in my left ear, and I went to an audiologist in Fort Smith until about maybe 5th or 6th grade, and my grades started dropping in 6th grade. Like, I was like making D's, and I'm usually an AB student, so it worried my parents. So we found another audiologist in Tulsa. Her name is Meredith Gatsmore. She's at St. Francis, and I went and saw her, and she was like, you should have been in a hearing aid when you were 3 or 4 years old. And so I've been with her since 6th grade, I think, and I go and see her about every 6 months. She's made a big impact on my life. She helps me with everything, and she's the main reason why I got my hearing aid at the age that I did.
Well, let me ask you, Cassidy, now, before you went to her, had you been diagnosed at all?
With my hearing loss?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was born with my hearing loss. They found out at birth that I had my hearing loss.
So, but they didn't give you hearing aids. Is that
They
right?
didn't think it was like, they didn't think I needed one that soon.
Oh,
But in reality, I did.
okay. So anyway, the kind of that same question, for the other ones, like Mackenzie, have you tell us a little bit about the story of your journey with hearing loss, and was there a particular audiologist that helped you?
I kind of had hearing loss issues ever since I was born too, but they didn't figure out until I was 14 years old that I got a hearing aid. So whenever I was born, I had a piece of skin over my eardrum, and I've never been able to pass the hearing test. So at the age of 14 years old, they figured out that I had an ear infection for 7 months that did damage the tissue behind my eardrum. So that's when they determined that I would need a hearing aid. But that it didn't end there. Like I had so many issues. I had a hole in my eardrum. Like I had so much going on. And so it's only in my right ear that I need a hearing aid. I do have hearing loss in my left ear, just not significant enough to have a hearing aid for it. But my audiologist that I've been going to, her name's Emily Mills. She's out of Hearts for Hearing in Oklahoma City. And she's like wonderful. She's so positive. Every time I go into her, she just gives me so much advice. And she even wrote like a kind of like an IEP up for my teachers for me. And so I've always had to sit in front of the classroom, and I've had most of my trouble with my hearing with lower voices. So guys, that's about it.
Yeah, IEP, Individual Educational Plan, for students with a lot of different issues, either hearing loss and other sight problems. So IEPs have gotten to be very essential over the years.
For sure.
Anyway, Zach, kind of tell us a little bit about your story with hearing loss, and is there particular audiologists or audiology group that have helped you in particular?
Okay, so I think like during the process of me being born, there was like an accident and some stuff went wrong, and from that is how I became deaf. It's like I had to be put into this like resuscitation machine, and not sure how all that works, but essentially it like made me like 70% deaf in both ears. And so since I was like 10 weeks old, I've always had hearing aids, grown up with them. I've gone to Hearts for Hearing all my life. I did a lot of like speech therapy and stuff like that all throughout like elementary and a little bit of middle school. But like it's never affected me. Like my hearing loss has never like caused me to be bullied or caused me to get bad grades or anything like that. Like it's always been like something that I don't really think about that much. And a lot of people don't think about it either. Like the guys at my fraternity house, I've been here for 2 months and they didn't know till like last week. So it's not really something that's a huge like deal for me, I guess.
That's a really good success story as far as adapting and working with hearing loss from an early age. To be diagnosed at an early age and get hearing aids for an early age at an early age, that seems to make a big difference. Mm-hmm. But it seems like all three of you have really coped well, adapted well, and are getting along great.
Yeah.
So anyway, do you have any inputs on this, Jan, about as a parent, parents with children might like to have a tip or two. Not that we have loads of parents here, but a few. And
Jan, can you share your hearing loss story about your son and that journey?
Sure. He was diagnosed in the hospital. He was one of the first ones in Oklahoma to be diagnosed at birth. And so immediately he was put into hearing aids, but we had a very difficult journey initially, mainly, I believe, because we were not associated with Hearts for Hearing at the beginning. But as soon as we found out about Hearts for Hearing, his hearing aids fit better, but he was still not going to be able to hear with hearing aids. And so at 14 months, he got implanted with his first cochlear implant. He is profoundly deaf. So he's the most. And so he got his first cochlear implant at 14 months. And then we traveled to a conference when he was approximately 3.5 to 4 years old. And at that time, they just started advocating for bilateral hearing aids, or bilateral cochlear implants in his case. And so he got a second cochlear implant because there was no saving that ear at 4 years old. And then he had one of them redone at 7. So, and he's had those ever since. And
so all throughout his childhood and teen years, did he have to have the cochlears upgraded and changed every 2 years?
The technology has remained fairly the same. One change that we made, and he was reluctant, honestly, to do it at first, but he went from basically a worn on the back in basically a baby onesie type cochlear implant to behind the ear when he was about 3 to 4 years old. He now wears them both behind the ears. He's had an IEP since he was in pre-kindergarten, all the way through age 18. Now he does not have one, and he actually has not, I don't even think he's told OU that he's officially hearing impaired.
Wow.
He doesn't ask for accommodations. He has done really well and doesn't seem to need them. So and he doesn't want to ask if he doesn't need. So that's kind of been his philosophy.
Okay, well, now thanks, Jan. Thank you all. And now I'm going to hand it over to Sharon. She's got our next question to ask.
Okay. Can you tell us about an extra supportive teacher that you encountered, or maybe even a teacher that wasn't so supportive, and how did you deal with that? Let's start with Mackenzie.
To be completely honest, I would say I've never had a teacher that hasn't supported me. Like, I've never had issues with the teacher not being able to work with me. A lot of the teachers, when they first figure out about it, like my mom would schedule a meeting with the school and they would talk, and they would just call me out in the hallway and ask me like, hey, like, are you doing okay? Do you need to move? Do you need to go closer to the front? If you're having issues, just tell me. And they would kind of follow up with that same process throughout the whole school year, just calling me out in the hallway or calling me up to the desk, making sure I'm doing okay. And if I wasn't doing okay and they noticed that throughout my work, they would talk to me and see if it has to do with my hearing or if it was something else. So, I mean, I haven't really had too many issues with teachers not being able to work with me. I've just had a lot of supportive teachers that have been able to work with me.
Well, that's a good report. Those are the ones we want to hear. How about you, Zach?
Yeah, so I was trying to think. Honestly, I'm kind of in the same boat as Mackenzie. All of my teachers have always supported me and never really had any issues. And it's it was never a big deal, like I was saying about me being deaf. So it wasn't something that was talked about a ton. We would discuss it at the beginning of the year before school actually started. And then after that, they just kind of didn't really bring it up again. And I think a couple of times I've had a teacher ask me in class if I needed to sit in the front. But other than that, it's just hasn't really been a big deal. And so I would say all of them have been equally supportive throughout the way.
That's excellent. Excellent. Thank you. How about Cassidy?
So my mom is a teacher at my high school, at my school, elementary teacher. So I have had an IEP my whole life. So I always had a teacher set in on my IEP meetings. So most of my teachers knew about my hearing loss, and they never really pointed it out to other students or anything. They were always there to help me no matter what. And probably my most impacted teacher would be my speech teacher. I took speech from when I was 3 years old all the way to senior year. She helped me in so many different ways that I loved it.
That's great. That's great. Well, I have to say we've come a long way, and I'm just going to share just a little bit. My daughter is hearing impaired as well, and when she was going to school, there wasn't so much support. So I'm going to give HLA a pat on the back for that, because I think we've brought a bigger awareness to those people who are involved with those of us who have hearing loss. And I can see now from you three that it's paid off. And anyway, that's just my little pat on the back. Jan, do you have anything to add to this?
When my son went to kindergarten, he was basically the first one with a cochlear implant, and they had never had that before. And at that time, the elementary school did not have what's it called, the microphone system within the room to enhance the speaker's voice. But because of him and because of a couple of the kids, the entire school, first the elementary school, and then gradually more of the school district decided that it would purchase those for all the classrooms. And I actually had teachers coming up to me saying, thank you, because it has helped me, because it's saving my voice. I no longer have to scream at students because it carries my voice, because sometimes I'm soft-spoken and it helps. And so the other thing that we did was we made sure, because he was one of the first with a cochlear implant, is that we provided an 8.5 by 11 sheet that was laminated every single time in his backpack for every single new teacher, to explain how things worked, how batteries had to be changed when he couldn't change them himself, all of that information, so that when he went to pre-K, they would have all that information. And so they always said it was very useful. In case, things started to beep or things started to go crazy, they would have that information so they would know what to do. So
Thank
that's
you.
advice I'd give to parents. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm going to turn the next question over to Elaine.
Yeah, well, the next question, I think Jan really answered it quite well. What advice would you give to an elementary school teacher who has a new student with hearing aids? But I'll also just see if our students have an answer for that, an advice to, now, of course, that's way back now, but an advice to an elementary school teacher that you wish you could tell them now, back when you were little, about how to be supportive or how to work with. And again, Jan had a great idea about having a laminated sheet of instructions, but would there be any other tips that you'd have for an elementary school teacher? And I'll start with Cassidy.
I would for sure say have the teacher stay in front of the classroom. Don't walk behind the students. For myself, if someone's behind me talking, I don't really hear them. I'm a big lip reader. So if a teacher is behind the students, the kids with a hearing aid or a hearing loss won't be able to understand the teacher for all the way. And then speak up. Don't speak softly, keep your words clearly, and just make sure all of your students can hear you correctly.
Yeah. What about you, Zach? Do you have any tips for an elementary school teacher? It must be kind of a struggle for both student and teacher at a young age.
Thinking back on whenever I was in elementary, first grade, stuff like that, I would say for the teachers, it's important to not know that you have a kid with a hearing disability, but don't bring it up in class, because with little kids like that, they won't let that go. And then they're going to be questioning that kid and basically not leaving him alone for the fact that he's deaf because the teacher brought it up. So it's really important that that there's a kid in there with a disability, but talk to him in private or with his parents in private. Don't bring it up in class, and don't ask any questions about it in class.
Yeah. That's a good one. And what about you, Mackenzie? Any tips for an elementary school teacher that you can remember when you were younger?
Well, I never had to go through it at that age, so I could not even imagine. But I would say patience. Be patient with them. It takes a while to learn what they can and cannot understand. So instead of being impatient and not understanding why they don't hear you or why they're not learning this or why they're not understanding it, just be patient and wait for them. And it also has to do with you learning what they can and cannot take. So just patience.
Yeah, that's good advice. Thanks, everybody. And now I'm gonna again hand it over to Sharon again.
Okay. Well, so I'm going to go down to, can you explain how or if your hearing loss affects your online learning in college, and what advice can you share? And Zach, let's start with you.
Yeah, I would say that it hasn't affected me at all. Honestly, coming into college and knowing that pretty much everything was going to be online, it was not desirable, but now I kind of like it more because I have a lot more free time, and especially with all the stuff that I have going on outside of class, it's really nice. But my disability in itself hasn't done anything whatsoever to negatively impact any of that. So.
Okay, that's good news.
Yeah.
Okay, Cassidy.
The only thing that I have a problem with for online classes would be like when the teacher records themselves, they don't speak all the way up. They kind of speak like lower, and like sometimes the computer or like the system don't pick up on their voice. That would be the only thing that I would have a problem with, because like when they start talking, it's kind of hard to hear them. I'll turn my computer all the way up and like they're still really low. They don't really speak up when they talk.
Right. So are most of your classes online now?
I only have 3 online classes. My other classes are in person.
Oh, okay. Okay. How about you, Mackenzie?
I was gonna say the exact same thing as Cassidy. Like all of my, like I have one professor and he's a guy and I have trouble with guy voices, and no matter how loud I turn my computer up, I really can't hear him. So it's like such a struggle, and I just like, he didn't have a microphone or anything that goes to the computer, and it's hard.
Yeah, I understand. Can you talk with him about that?
I probably could email him and let him know, but I know like it's set up in modules, so that's the same thing that everyone else is looking at. So I don't know if there's something else he could do to elaborate on the information from me, but I probably need to email him about that.
Mackenzie, I will say on behalf of the Hearing Loss Association, if you need a strong, stern note from us, you let us know.
Yes. Okay. Jan, has Peter shared anything with you about that kind of struggle?
Well, he didn't have to share because from basically March on, he was living at home and doing all of his classes obviously online.
Yes.
Right now, he's doing a mixture of both. He has both face-to-face classes and he also has online classes for the large ones. He actually prefers the online classes. I think the thing that he misses the most is his job at OU, because previously he was known as the loudmouth referee for sports, because he was also known as the loudmouth goalie when he played soccer. But yeah, that job no longer exist because of the lack of intramural sports. And so they're having him do other jobs, but he misses that, I think, the most.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I'm going to turn it back over to Elaine for the next question.
Yeah, let's see. So again, I think you all kind of answered the question I was which is, advice to the teachers and professors, and that is, but I think you also mentioned that it sounds like there's a need to let these teachers know, now that you're all online, that there's the technology needs to be upgraded and we all need to learn how to use it better. But let me go on in here and ask Jan, what are some of the things you've learned through the years being a mom of someone with hearing loss?
One of the earliest things I learned was that if possible, do not go to your first IEP alone. Because I was very glad when I went to the IEP, the very first time I went alone. I did not have anybody with me, and it felt like me against 9, to be honest. And they were trying to place Peter into much more physically restrictive situations than I wanted him to be in. I wanted him to be a student in a regular classroom because he was showing the skills that he could succeed if he was a student in a regular classroom. And they were trying to make, they were meaning well, they were thinking well, but at the same time, the need to advocate at a very early age for your child is super important. And the other thing I would suggest is constant monitoring of both speech and hearing. So audiologist and speech pathologist at a very early age.
Well, let me ask you, when you say don't go to an IEP meeting alone, who did you finally figure out to bring with you? The audiologist or
yeah, or even just bringing, if the HLA would agree to do that for parents, it would be just having somebody as a support system, because fortunately I'm familiar enough obviously with school systems to know what kind of he needed at the time and what he didn't need. They were suggesting that he be held back for a year. They were suggesting that he be put into a sign language class, just a whole bunch of things that he did not. They were suggesting that he be pulled out of class 3 out of 5 times a week. And I was like, no. He can be in class all 5 days a week. It's fine. He can be there all 7 days, or all 5 days, all 7 hours. He can be there. And so just the ability to speak up and say, this is what he needs and this is what he doesn't need, I think was really super important for Peter.
I want to jump in really quick and just say that for those of you who don't know, an IEP is an individualized education plan. If for children with special needs, any kind of disabilities, any kind of just a little help, that's what those plans are for. And the teachers and that system is set up to really get a perfect plan for you. But she's right. If you don't go in, then they'll just do what they've done with everybody else. But you know your child, you know your family, and you know what they can do. So I will say that there's an organization called the Oklahoma Parent Center, and they will actually go with you to those IEPs. Fantastic organization. So look up that website. It's Oklahoma Parent Center, and we'll have that on our website.
Can I say something here? I'd like to address Jan's issue. I apologize for that. I have been the moderator of IEPs in my school district for 21 years. And I hope that we never had a situation like that, that we always stressed that parents have rights too. When you're in an IEP meeting, the parents have just as much right, if not more, than the school does have, and the parent needs to speak up. And I appreciate your standing up for your child like that, because you know your child the best, and an IEP meeting is supposed to be a cooperative thing in which the school, the parents work together on a plan, and it should never be anything that's forced down your throat like that. So I wasn't in your school district, thank goodness, but I just want you to know that I don't think it's that way everywhere.
No, and I don't think it is. I think that, as I said, I think they meant really, really, really well. But at the same time, it was not necessarily what he needed. And it was important to advocate for him, since he was only 5 at the time, or 4, to make sure that he got exactly what he needed and essentially no more, if that makes sense. And so I just think it's important for parents to bring a friend, even just a friend, or bring an audiologist, or particularly bring paperwork from your audiologist to show exactly where your child's hearing is at and what you can understand. Even some of the tests, for example, that an audiologist does, because every school district these days probably has a speech path that will understand what those tests mean and can see how well your child is doing. And so I brought some of the tests in and said, he's doing well. 27 out of 28 words. This is what he needs. And so, yeah, they meant well. It just sometimes did not always come across that way.
Okay. Well, let me see if I've really asked the questions I was supposed to do. I wanted to, before I'm moving on to Sharon's next question, I wanted to ask the young people, at some point, like especially in high school, your social, your social life becomes extremely important. It's a natural process of pulling away a little bit from parents in the adult world and naturally focusing on peers. And I just wanted to start with Mackenzie because, you said you weren't even diagnosed until you were 14. How were things in high school socially? Was that a tricky minefield for you, or did it go pretty well?
Actually, like all my friends thought it was super cool because hearing aids can Bluetooth to your phone. You can listen to music in class without the teacher knowing. Like, I guess everyone thought that was amazing. But no, everyone liked it. And everyone was like, oh my gosh, like I want one of those. I don't have to wear my headphones anymore. Like I can listen to music without anyone knowing I'm listening to music while I'm doing my work. Like everyone, it was never hard for me, but a lot of times, like if I forgot it that day or something, which usually I didn't, but if I had a day where I accidentally forgot to put it in, I feel like my friends didn't understand as much when I couldn't hear them. I would have to ask them to repeat themselves, and they would just be like, why can't you hear me? Do you not have your hearing aid in today? So, but it didn't really affect me too much, but there was to a certain point to where it did affect me.
Yeah. And what about you, Zach? Socially, you're saying that you haven't had a hard time of it, but in high school, things do get a little tricky socially.
Yeah, high school was great, honestly. All my friends that I had, they all thought it was super cool. Everyone else that maybe I wasn't friends with that much, they all thought it was super cool. Like she said, getting to listen to music in class is really nice. But no, it was always something that was like good. Like whenever I would tell people that I hadn't met before, like they'd get like excited about it and like ask questions, and I never minded the questions. I think the only people that ever like gave me a hard time for being deaf was my best friends, but I had that coming, so that should happen. So,
Zach, can I ask you a question? Did you play
Yeah.
sports in high school, and
Yeah.
were any modifications or changes because of your hearing loss when it came to sports?
So I did football the 7th through my senior year, and I did track those same years. And the helmets that we had in football were actually great because there wasn't any padding on like the ear area, and so it never bothered me, and I could just take my helmet right on and off, and it never was a big deal. So, but playing with hearing aids in football, you do kind of have to be careful because sometimes like there was a couple situations where like it didn't get broken, but like a piece would snap off if I got hit too hard in the side of the head or something like that. But it was never something that held me back in that sense, socially and in sports. So.
Okay, Cassidy, how was your high school social experience?
I had the best high school experience. My friends always knew to talk in front of me. They never talked behind me. And they always like talked to me like on my right side where my hearing is better than my left. The only time I had problems with my hearing was in basketball. I did not wear my hearing aid on the court because I'm a little bit too physical for that, and I didn't want to break my hearing aid. So my coaches and my teammates always knew to like do hand signals for me for certain plays, and then the point guard always made sure I knew what play we were doing. And like I loved playing in the really crowded gym because everything just like canceled out. I was like in my own world, and I could play like at my own time, and I didn't have to worry about hearing anyone important or anything like that.
Boy, that's, you've all sounds like you had a better time in high school than I did, but we don't want to go into that. So anyway, thank all of you. And again, Sharon, do we have another question to ask?
I think I'll just have one more question. What are the 3 best tips for people of all ages struggling with the embarrassment of their hearing loss or device? We may have already addressed that from this last question, but let's give it a shot. Cassidy?
So I got my first hearing aid in 7th grade. And at first, a lot of people like questioned me, like, why do you have a hearing aid? Like, hearing aids are for like people older, like people our age don't need hearing aids. And I'm like, well, I have a hearing loss. I need this. This helps me like in the classroom, out of the classroom. It just helps me live my life. So I would for sure like tell people to stay confident. Do not get down on yourself for having the hearing loss. It's who you are. This hearing loss has made me who I am today, and I love it. So I would for sure just stay confident and live your life.
Well, that's a good attitude. Love it. Zach, how about you?
Yeah, I was trying to think of three, but really I could only come up with one big one. And this is kind of what I tell a lot of people whenever I talk to them is like, there's certain things in life, like the only two things you can control in life are your attitude and effort. I can't control that I'm deaf. And so I just need to own it. And anyone else in my situation, like you just have to own it because you have to have an understanding that you can't change it and that it's who you are. And that if you accept that it's who you are, then you'll be happy. And that's the biggest thing is just owning it and realizing that you have to make the best of every situation. And that if you live your life sad, then you just, I mean, I don't know. I've owned it and I've never let it bother me, even though there's times where it should have. But yeah, you just have to accept it.
Good advice. Good advice. How about Mackenzie?
There's one time I remember where I just got out of cross country practice and this girl came up to me and was like, "Aren't you hearing impaired?" And I was like, "Yeah, I am." She was my brother. He was an oncoming freshman. And she was like, "Can you talk to him? Like he needs hearing aids." And I was like, "Yeah, like send him away. I'll talk to him." He never came to me for advice, but what I told her was, I came into high school with it, and my advice for it would be to embrace it, because I know when I first got it, like everyone, they're probably thinking, "Oh, it makes me look old. I'm not supposed to look like this. I'm not supposed to have this device." But I just told her embrace it, and I was like, I'm like, you don't need to be scared to talk about it. Like it's who you are. It's your flaws. Your flaws make you beautiful. So embrace it.
Thank you. Thank you. Elaine, did you have another question?
Well, let's see. I think we're just about, we've already asked Jan, and of course, what she's learned is just amazing with a child with hearing loss right from the get-go. And I imagine she has tons of information for other parents. It would almost take a one-on-one session with other parents. But I just want to ask her if she has anything else to add about helping children, for instance, adapt socially, since we were talking about high school. Is there any help that, now sometimes the parents can't help a teenager very much, but sometimes they can. So I was just going to ask her about helping them adapt socially to high school with teachers, with peers. Did you have to look out for his peer group? Did you have to look out for bullying or anything?
Peter never had really any issues in high school. I think he was bullied a couple times, and the typical bullying phrase is microphone head for Peter. But he just kind of, as Zach said, it is who he is, and that's kind of the way he's lived his life. And so when he's ever played soccer, he's gone up to the team and he said, I have a hearing loss. This is who I am. And I will always be wearing a headband. And so that's how he played soccer from age 4 to basically age 18, was by wearing a headband to keep the cochlear implants in place and to make sure that they would not move and that he would not have to find them on the field. Because I told him that would be very difficult to find. And so he is who he is, and he has embraced it and accepted it. And he actually says that he would not want to be any other way because it's the only way he's ever been. So
Yeah.
Good.
So that sounds like the other kids, when you come across confidently like that, he probably had more acceptance from other kids that way.
right. And his girlfriend has been very accepting, and if things work out, I don't know how long she'll be his girlfriend, let's just put it that way, but we'll see. But he's on that path. It's going to be a few years because he wants to get finished with school first, but so he's definitely a social kid, and so that's a good thing.
Thank you very much, Jan, and thank all of you. I'm going to turn it over to Ron and Sharon now because I think we don't want to make this into a test where everybody has to answer too many questions.
I want to interject really quick before we close it up. I want to try a little social experiment here. We've got, oh gosh, there's quite a few of us in this room. But I want to ask your age whenever you were first hit with hearing loss, whatever age that may be. We're just going to go right down the line like a speed question, okay? So, Elaine, you and I are a little exceptional, I'll say, because we are not hearing loss. We do not wear hearing aids or cochlear implants, but we just love hearing loss. So, Elaine, how long have you been involved in this hearing loss world?
Well, I started volunteering with the Hearing Helpers Room in 2016, June of 2016. And I was interested in it from the get-go because there were devices that looked interesting. I have an older sister and an older brother with hearing loss. And now at 70 years old, I know I have at least some level of tinnitus and hearing loss. And so I need to get myself over to an audiologist, and I keep putting it off. But yeah, so
I think
really, since
you just volunteered for a Zoom where we get to follow you around. So that's pretty exciting. Okay, so a few years for you. Mackenzie, you were 14, so is that right? 14, 15?
Yes.
Perfect. Ron, what about you?
Oh, golly, I've only had my hearing aids for, what, Sharon, 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
So that puts me over 70 when I was.
Over 70. I love that. Sharon, how old were you?
I got my first hearing aid at 18.
Okay.
Needed them before that, but I got one then.
Okay. And Jan Hart, do you have hearing loss yourself, or is it just your son and that was when he was born?
Right, just my son, so it'll be almost 21 years because we'll be 21 this month.
Perfect. And then Nancy, how old were you when you were
Unmute.
hit with? I think she's on mute. Wanda, you're next. You're on mute too.
I got my first hearing aids at 33 years of age. However, in retrospect, and because I did not have access to much medical care and no audiological care, nobody even knew about audiological care then, I can look back and see that I've been hearing impaired all my life. So I struggled all my life. And I was near the severe range when I got my first pair of hearing aids. So I did not have the advantage of audiological services or the technology, obviously, and that these kids have. And listening to their stories, I think it is just absolutely fantastic that they can be diagnosed at the
involved and stay involved that early.
I think Peter is well, he was diagnosed in the hospital, she said. And is he already 21 or is he going to be 21, Jan?
He will turn 21 in like 11 days.
I
love that. Yeah. All right, Rob, Wanda, how long have you had hearing loss?
I started hearing aid when I was about 10 years old. I know my mother would take me to doctors, and I had a lot of ear infections and things like that.
And we'll do more. Cassidy, how old were you?
So I was born with my hearing loss.
That's right.
I can say about 6th grade when it really started affecting me that I remember of.
Oh my gosh. Okay, Kay Griffin, Mr. and Mrs. Griffin, what about you guys? How old were you when you were first diagnosed?
I was probably about 62 or 63. I was still employed and I didn't retire until I was 65. So I wore hearing aids for a little while at work, but that was one of the main reasons that it became an issue, because I was a social worker and I was working with young children and I couldn't hear them. And particularly if I had to transport them somewhere in the back seat of the car, I definitely could not hear them. So I knew I had to get some help.
Okay.
Let me tell you about my story here. I'm 81 years old and my hearing is starting to go away.
Okay. I'm very proud of you for acknowledging it. That's the first step, just like an alcoholic program. It's the first step to say about hearing loss. And then you can join Elaine and I when we all go to the doctor together for the first time. Okay, and last one, Bernice, how old were you? If you can hear me. Oh, she's on mute. I wish I was a better lip reader, but I am not. Let's see, I think she's unmuting. Maybe not. Well, what this told me when we went through this line is that hearing loss can be found, you can get diagnosed at when you're born, when you're in 8th grade, when you're 60, or when you're 80 something. So really, this has just been such an important Zoom, because we learned really how important speech therapy has been to a lot of our students. Really accepting that first and owning it, and then taking steps, including IEP programs, and really taking hold of all that support system, our family support system and our teachers, and speaking up for ourselves. I'm also glad to hear that Hearts for Hearing has had such an impact on several of our scholarship winners in the past, and these as well. One of our board members named Patty Burns was our longtime serving president. She and Hearts for Hearing have just been swamped. They have really been working hard this season, especially with all this online Zooming. So I will let you all know that we're going to have individual one-on-ones with a lot of our board members. Nancy's story you'll be able to hear all about, and all these individual stories, so you'll be able to go back and watch those anytime. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Ron.
Wait.
Elaine, you have a question.
Well, I just wanted to acknowledge Tom Burke. He's been here all the time, and I just wanted to see if he wanted to say anything about his hearing loss.
Thank you. I thought I got skipped. I was trying to keep a low background, and but I've been hearing impaired. I was diagnosed in kindergarten, so they figured I lost my hearing when I was 2, and I got my hearing aids back in the big kinds and all this other stuff. And I hated wearing them in high school. I didn't wear them in high school. I tried to bluff my way through, and that was the wrong way to go. I became a good actor, and then in college, I just had enough of it to hell with it. And I started wearing hearing aids and became militant as I got older. And now people see me with hearing aids. They come on up and ask questions, all kinds of questions, because they're losing their hearing. And it's really becoming quite common. And then I think one problem with you being young and losing your hearing is speech therapy. I had to go back and start doing speech therapy again, because my wife has trouble understanding me. It's time to go back and learn to talk again. And I think that's very difficult. So for all of you taking speech therapy, it's something you have to do. And, you just have to, it's a challenge. Everybody's got challenges in life, and it's fun. It's a fun trip too. There's advantages to being hard of hearing, but you get to hear what you want sometimes. Anyhow,
Wow, yeah.
Tom is
joining us. And I want to say thank you to all of our panel members. I really did enjoy hearing you and having you on. We hope that our Hearing Loss Association can be a help for you, and someplace to go in difficult times. So certainly feel free to contact us, a phone call, a text, or email, look at our Facebook page, look on the website, and I can hardly wait to get our YouTube channel up and running. So that'll be something too. Our next meeting, oh, by the way, let me say, we just got a notice from the church. Church of the Servant is now looped. I don't know whether it's live yet or not, but they've announced it publicly. And so our next meeting November 19th will be another Zoom meeting. And we're planning to have representatives from some of the various churches around talking about their experience with looping and with their help with hearing lost people. So anyway, that's next Thursday on Zoom. So not next Thursday, I'm sorry. It's the second Thursday, third Thursday. Okay, I'll get it straight here in a minute. Third Thursday each month. And we'll be Zooming at least until January. So Anna, back at you.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you all so much. Look forward to that next meeting. We've got hearing loops all over Oklahoma now. Tulsa, Norman, Oklahoma City. What that means is you can sit right by that baptismal font where it's really loud in the air conditioner, but the priest will come right to your ears. So we're going to talk all about that. Tom, I think, will be joining us for that as well. He's a big advocate for those. So we will see you on November 19th. Make sure that you can even eat your turkey dinner, little turkey lunch while we're having our Zoom, okay? So we'll see you all then at 12 o'clock. And please make sure to invite your friends. Thank you so much to all of our panelists, especially Jan Hart, Cassidy Floyd, Zach Burleson, and Mackenzie Chestnut. We are so proud of you. We're so excited. And if you need some fresh baked cookies, you know who to call, okay? You all have a wonderful day. And thank you so much. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
See you then.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.